This is the Talkin Bout the Hoosiers podcast, presented by HoosierIllustrated.com.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Talking About the Hoosiers podcast, presented by HoosierIllustrated.com. I'm joined by Kyler Staley. I'm Drew Rosenberg, and once again, I've lost count at this point, Kyler, another emergency podcast. Illinois wing Luke Goode, Fort Wayne native, has committed to play for Mike Woodson, Indiana. Mike Woodson has gotten his shooter.
Yes, he does, doesn't he? But yeah, a lot of emergency podcasts, and that's a good thing. So, but yeah, Luke Goode committed to Indiana. So, big emphasis this offseason has been shooting. I feel like we've heard, since the, probably December mark of last season, it's this Indiana team's got to get shooting. It's got to get shooting. It's got to get shooting. Well, it's got shooting now. It's got a really good shooter. You got a guy that shoots 39%. From three, a guy that only took last year, which I found the stat mind-blowing to me. He only took 22 total twos. All of his shots, I think it was around like 87% of his shots come from the three, and that's where he just sticks. He sticks behind that perimeter area, really active about getting the spots, works well off of ball screens, especially off the ball. He's really good. I think his main strength is his catch and shoot ability. And, he kind of plays that Miller Kopp role to an extent, but he's a lot more active, when it comes to, an offense, just trying to get shots, trying to get open looks. But he's a really efficient shooter as well. I think he had 61 made threes, and I think that was 15th in the Big Ten last year. So he knows what it takes to, shoot well in the Big Ten. He's from Indiana. He's an Indiana guy. He's got a lot of good Indiana connections. I think his uncle was Trent Green, who's one of the famous IU quarterbacks. His dad played football. His brother actually goes to IU as a student right now. So he's got that connection, and he's going to come in as a grad transfer. He's already graduated in 3 years with Illinois. So he's got that extra year of eligibility left to use. But no, it fits really well in what Indiana really needed with these final scholarships that they had. So really good pickup by Indiana, and Mike Woodson just continues, to add, more and more valuable pieces to this team.
Yeah, Indiana, I mean, when you look at the roster, the biggest need right now it's a big and a floor spacer. You got the floor spacer with Goody. I mean, you look at some of his games from last year, he's done it in some of the toughest environments. Against Purdue last year on the road, had his season high 16 points, including 4 threes in that game. Against Indiana, fans probably will remember that game he had 11 points, including 3 threes against the Hoosiers at Illinois. So he's done it in some of the biggest games of the season for Illinois, which is something you like to see, someone battle-tested, especially when you're looking to bring in a shooter who's done it somewhere else. Now you want to see him do it here at Assembly.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously Mike Woodson's still going to play that inside-out game, but the inside-out game works when you have a player like Luke Goode. And I don't know if he's going to be a starter next season, but he's going to be playing a lot of minutes, and he'll probably likely be one of the first players off the bench for Indiana. But, like you said, a floor spacer is what Indiana really needed here to fill out this roster. And, shooting, that's what it is, and it gets as simple as that. They needed a guy that knows what it takes to make shots, and I think he can, especially if you got somebody like McKenzie and Baco there, and you're kind of hoping either Carlisle or Rice, improve their three-point shooting as well. Indiana has a real chance to be really, really deadly when it comes to perimeter play and guard play overall. But, this guy's a winner. First of all, I watched him a lot in high school when he went to Homestead. He's like the winningest player in Homestead history, which is really, really it's really good because you just got a winner. You got a guy that just wants to win, and he's got that mentality. So, but yeah, not a whole lot you can say other than Indiana got their guy when it comes to shooting. They got a guy that, is going to be really, really effective in that area. So, major props to Mike Woodson and then for just bringing the guy. And plus, you've also got a guy that knows what the Indiana culture is all about. And that's big. You got a culture piece there, and Indiana is in win now mode. Eligibility doesn't really matter to them. It could be 1 year, 3 years, however many, but they want to build a winning team this year, and they really want to make a deep run when it comes to the NCAA tournament, and getting a player like Luke Goode helps them with that goal.
Yeah, and I think the other big thing is it's like proven value as a shooter. You see the volume there with nearly 4 attempts or more than 4 attempts a game on the season. So that's a really big thing to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think an underrated part when you look at the film and looking at past games, I think an underrated part of Goody's game is that he can also slash really well. And he's not just, I mean, yes, he's going to stick, and 90% of his time he's going to be at the perimeter, but he's not a bad slasher in a way. And he's smart enough to know when he's got the defense beat, when he's got his defender beat, and when he can, make plays. Because and he really, really attacks the glass, well for his position as well. So I think that was also a big key. When Mike Woodson mentioned it a lot last year, you can't just have Malik Renew, you can't just have, Ballo down there, you can't have Mackenzie Mbako down there just fighting for rebounds. You need guards in there that are going to go in there and fight for those rebounds. That's what he does. So just a high IQ player. You needed somebody like this. You absolutely needed somebody like this. And you got to give major props to Mike Woodson and the entire coaching staff right now for just the really, really good job that they're doing, bringing in guys like a Luke Goode and, like the guard play and, finding a replacement for Khalil Ware with Omar Ballo. But we'll just see, kind of how the pieces fit. That's kind of the next step there. And we'll just see what they can do the rest of this offseason.
Yeah, now you have two scholarships left. So it's going to be interesting to see, I guess, what else does Mike Woodson do with that. In my mind, I think you potentially look to add another big and then maybe another wing to have a little more depth there. So I think those are probably the two areas you probably see Mike Woodson look to address with these last two scholarships. But it's going to be really interesting. I mean, we've mentioned it every single podcast. Woodson still has some work to do. He's not done yet with this recruiting class, while currently does have the number one transfer portal class in the country. So just continuing to build on that. And it's been a really big offseason for him after a really disappointing season.
Absolutely. And then obviously we'll all have a bunch of coverage on that. With how we have with every transfer portal commit. I have a lot of that at HoosierIllustrated.com. We got scouting reports on Goody, Rice, Carlisle, Ballo, all those things. So, Indiana fans can get kind of an in-depth look at what these guys are bringing to the roster next year. But it's exciting if you're an Indiana fan. It really is, because Mike Woodson's doing what he needed to do this offseason. Now it's just putting it all together and seeing what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, and if you want to stay up to date on the transfer portal, Indiana's targets, Indiana football heading into the fall, make sure you're following Indiana_FRN on Twitter, Facebook, and check out the HoosierIllustrated.com website. And make sure you're subscribed on both YouTube and Spotify. Hoosier Illustrated has also partnered with Tom Brady's company Autograph to streamline our coverage. So you can do what you do best. Follow IU Sports. Use the code IndianaFR to get started today. As always, thank you for tuning in to the Talkin Bout the Hoosiers podcast. We'll be back.